So what is the most advanced NFT infrastructure in the world? I know the answer. It's RMRK, definitely. RMRK is poised to not only take the Sama space by storm, but also the Ethereum ecosystem by bringing unique and never before seen features in the NFT space, like Metaverse-ready NFTs with multiple outputs, NFTs reacting to emotion, NFTs having conditional rendering, and more things. The future is here, and Bruno, founder of RMRK, will talk about it just right now. Welcome, Bruno. Hello, Bruno.
Hello, thank you for the great intro. Thank you.
I introduced you twice, so. Are you ready for your speech?
Yep, indeed.
What is the name of this topic today?
NFTs 2.0 with RMRK and where it's going in terms of the Wasm implementation and how we're thinking about that. But first, we'll go through to understand this, there's a very long story behind it, which I want to get through. It's a very long talk, but I think it's worth it because you really need to put in some effort to understand why this is so advanced.
Definitely agree. I know you in person, and every your speech is amazing, so I'm really excited about it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Should I begin?
Yeah.
All right. Is my screen like? Oh, okay, there we go. Perfect. Nice. So if anybody has any questions while watching this, please just shoot them over in the comments, and I will try to address them as I see them, because I prefer to answer questions as soon as possible so that you don't have to wait until the end of the talk. So just fire them off into the chat, and I'll do my best to answer. So before we go into the topic of the conference, which is Wasm, we need to cover some other things before that, because otherwise it will be very, very disconnected. And just like with any other really advanced technology, you can't really just dive into it. You have to have some basics behind it. So we have to, start very, very basic and then work our way up. So like I said, this is going to be a slightly longer talk than you're probably used to. My talks usually are, because there's a lot to say, and so I encourage a healthy back and forth discussion, which is why I mentioned the comments. Feel free to stop me at any point and just ask a question, and I will also have small breaks in between sections of this talk so that we can address some pending inquiries. Anyway, let's get into it. My name is Bruno, and I'm the founder of RMRK. You can always find me on Twitter @Bitfalls or on Telegram @Swader, and I will always do my best to answer your questions about anything that I talk about today or in general, just .sama. I'll try whenever I have time. So before this, I was in 2015. I was working on Ethereum on ICOs, audits, and stuff. In 2015, I did some education to get Web2 developers into Web3. And later on, I joined Ethereum 2.0 movement, the Nimbus client with the status team. And after that, I went to the Web3 Foundation to work as technical educator on Polkadot and Kusama. That's where RMRK actually came from, as a way to make NFTs better than what they were so far. So RMRK is so what is RMRK in general? RMRK is a team. RMRK is a set of NFT standards, and RMRK is a multi-chain architecture for advanced NFTs. So all of this is RMRK. But when we talk about, when I say RMRK, I usually mean the standards themselves. We as a company, we as a team wanted to build really cool stuff on NFTs, but there was no infrastructure on which to build these cool things. And so we had to build the infrastructure first. So the RMRK standards for NFTs are that infrastructure. And so now we're building cool stuff on top of this. So in this talk, we'll talk about three things: NFTs 2.0, where we break down RMRK, then metaverses, where we break down something else I want to mention today, and then explain why I even talked about 1 and 2, which I hope will be useful. I can see Claudio is already giving a shout out to the rotating super Canaria bird behind me in the video. So this is the most valuable NFT in the .sama ecosystem. It's a Canaria bird. It's the world's first multi-resource NFT that can be multiple things at once, which we'll cover in a bit. And it also brings passive revenue to its holder, 0.5% of all Remark team income. There are 100 of such birds on the marketplace, 120 or so. So if you want to get some, feel free. So the point here, the point of Remark is that NFTs can be much more than digital assets collecting dust. Right now, they are just static images that, you know, have their pump, have their 15 minutes of fame, and then disappear and are forgotten, and then generally sit in a wallet until either an influencer notices them a few years later or just die. And this is super disappointing because this started in 2017 during the CryptoKitties craze when the first NFTs showed up and went mainstream. And I was a pretty big part of that whole movement in participation-wise. I had a lot of kitties and I still do. But it was kind of disappointing to see that the technology didn't really go anywhere else from that. So it wasn't really progressing at all. It was just static images, always static images. And so what we wanted to do is make them much, much more than that. And we built Remark. And Remark is NFT 2.0 composable Legos that you can put together into a system of arbitrary complexity. Now, this already sounds super complex, so we'll go here step by step. With Remark, NFTs can own other NFTs. NFTs can also equip other NFTs. So you can have accessories that can be equipped and that are standalone NFTs themselves and can be traded amongst other users or avatars and so on. So you have this accessory infrastructure where you can equip visually items into other items, NFTs into other NFTs, and change their appearance. But this applies also to other things, like you can equip music stems into music songs and remix songs, or you can equip filters onto movies and remix movies. You can even have mixed media. You can equip a song into an avatar and have a background music for that avatar. So NFTs can own other NFTs. Any Remark NFT can own any other Remark NFT. That's a default functionality. So that's Lego number one. Lego number two is multi-resource NFTs, which means that an NFT can be multiple things at once. That means that with multi-resource NFTs, if you have something like an ebook, that ebook can at the same time have an audio file and a PDF file. And if you load it into Audible, it will just play. And if you load it into Kindle, it'll just be a readable file. And the same applies to longevity of NFTs. Right now, most NFTs default to centralized hosting. This is because it's easiest and fastest and most convenient, but it is very much against Web3 and decentralization. So when you mint something on a platform like OpenSea, your NFT is minted on a centralized server. This is just spits in the face of blockchain. And additionally, when that server goes down, everything else goes down with it, including your NFT. So to make it safe, you can use actually these multi-resource NFTs where you have one resource which points to that image on a server, one resource that points to that image on Arweave, one resource that points to that image on SIA, and one resource that points to that image on IPFS. And so suddenly, the chances of all four hosting platforms going down at the same time are astronomical. You can't even really calculate how little of a chance there is that four things go down at the same time. So your NFT is much, much safer. And another really cool aspect of multi-resource NFTs is solving the problem that gamers, by and large, have with NFTs. So what they say is you can't have NFT skins for games because every game is rigged differently. So you can't just take a Fortnite skin and put it into Borderlands. It just doesn't work, which is true. But it's only true in as much as if you're trying to get to the moon with a horse, you can't. And so ERC 721 or the current NFT standards are the horse. You need a rocket to get to the moon, and multi-resource NFTs are the rocket. What you get here is you have one NFT that has one resource that's a skin file for Fortnite and one resource that is a skin file for Borderlands. So now you have one NFT with two different resources that are context dependent. So if you load it into Fortnite, it automatically knows to load the skin file for Fortnite. And if you load it into Borderlands, it knows to load that one. Additionally, you can add resources after the mint to those NFTs. So your NFTs are not just static and forgotten. They can be made compatible with future collections that are yet to come out. So if I have, for example, a collection of 10,000 seagulls, and 4 seagulls have a golden chain around their neck. In traditional NFTs, the rarity of the golden chained seagull is 4 in 10,000, which is pretty rare. But that's where the game stops. That's where the value stops. In Remark, not only can you take that golden chain and put it onto any other seagull, you can also launch a collection of pigeons later on, or doesn't even have to be you, it can be somebody else, to launch a collection of 10,000 pigeons. And if you make that chain, that golden chain, compatible with the pigeons, the rarity of that chain is no longer 4 in 10,000, it's 4 in 20,000. And this is a hugely powerful concept which allows you to add utility and forward compatibility to your NFTs, making them useful long into the future. And as new collections join this ecosystem, every single collection that exists can be made more valuable. So as we grow the pie by joining new projects, everybody's share grows because everybody can participate in this value share where the NFTs are all mutually compatible. So we also have on-chain emotes as the third Lego, where you're able to react to anybody's NFT. Send a reaction just like on social media or whatever, thumbs up, poop, and so on. Which is an interesting social mechanic, but also very good for relative price discovery. If you have 2 Canaria birds that look the same, but one of them has a thumbs up from Gavin, then that one is obviously more valuable. And this enables Lego 4, which is conditional rendering. So what you can do with conditional rendering is, this is a front-end side of things logic, where you can tell the NFT, if the NFT has, let's say, a Mona Lisa NFT, if the NFT has 2 resources, one is a regular Mona Lisa, and the other one is a blushing Mona Lisa. You can tell the NFT, if this NFT gets 50 kissy emojis, then the Mona Lisa should be shown as blushing. If this planet gets 100 rocket emojis, then it should show a moon base. Additionally, you can also have other on-chain and off-chain parameters that affect this conditional rendering. Like if this NFT of a wolf has 50 other wolves minted in the same collection, then switch the image of a wolf to a wolf pack. And you can combine and mix and match all of these conditions, all of these Legos together to end up with really intricate and dynamic NFT systems that don't require custom coding. The real magic of Remark here is that any UI, any wallet, any interface, any portfolio manager that supports these basic Legos that we've built automatically supports any permutation and combination of these Legos. So there's no custom coding, no expensive Solidity teams to hire, no custom UI needed to maintain this unless you want to stylize something. Everything is supported by any marketplace and any implementation that supports the Remark standards. And the fifth Lego is NFTs governed as DAOs. Right now in Ethereum, whenever you fractionalize an NFT, which means that you turn it into fungible tokens, you generally use this for gambling because there's nothing else you can do with these tokens. You just gamble with them. You flip them, you sell them, you buy them, whatever. With Remark, because NFTs can do so much more, they can equip other NFTs, they can issue commands, they can change the priority of the resources. So maybe a marketplace supports both audio files and PDF files. And if you switch the resource to that NFT, you will pick which one gets shown first, either the audio file or the PDF file. And the user can switch between them. I can show this to you later live. So you can do a lot of different things with these NFTs. And so it makes sense to be able to govern them as a community. And this is particularly powerful when you put it together in one example that we have, that is a virtual billboard in the metaverse. So if you have a piece of land in a metaverse that is an NFT, and you buy a billboard that is an NFT, that billboard NFT can be sent into the land so that the land now owns the billboard. Remember the nesting, the NFTs owning NFTs? That's it. So now the land owns the billboard, and you put it up, you equip the billboard into the land. Now, let's say that the billboard sees a lot of foot traffic because everybody's spawning close to it. So now brands notice this, and they want to put up their ad. So they get in touch with the billboard owner, but the billboard owner says, no, let's do it differently. I'm going to fractionalize this billboard, turn it into share tokens, divide those up into my community or sell them. And so now the community can collectively decide which ad gets shown. The community tells the NFT which image to show, and the brands now have to compete with each other to get those shareholders to actually pick their ad. And so you end up with kind of like community-based virtual real estate governance, which is an interesting concept to have without any custom code. So to drive it home in a visual way for the at least nesting and multi-resources, let's look at the Chunky Funky example. Let's say there's a character we call a Chunky, and we want him to hold some items. Now, if we've drawn him already, then it's very difficult to add items in because you end up with this, right? You need to know where to crop them, and it's kind of awkward. So to accommodate for this, what you do is you separate, you split off the fingers from the hand. So you end up with this. So the fingers are on layer 2, and the body is on layer 0, and layer 1 is reserved for anything that you want to put in between. So now you have this. Now, if you focus on the pencil and the flag, these are both standalone NFTs. NFTs that can be sold separately on their own. But if you look at the flag specifically, you can see that in this viewport, the flag is slightly off to the right. It's not centered. And so in a catalog, in a marketplace, it would look really weird. For that reason, you make a new resource and you add the resource to the flag. That resource is specialized for main view, for single view, for view in catalogs, for single view of NFTs, for full screen views. So now the flag looks good. And it has 2 resources, one for main view and one for equipped view into the chunkies. Now let's say that a new character comes up, Funky. And so we want her to hold the flag as well. But the flag now is at a different angle and a different size, and again, doesn't fit the chunky flag. So we need a new resource. That new resource is going to be this new flag that is compatible with the funkies. So now the flag has 3 resources. One is for chunky equipping, one is for funky equipping, and one is for the main view in the marketplace. And this is the concept that allows you to build really intricate global item economies. So remember this, global item economy. A global item economy is a creator economy that allows anybody to draw and create accessories and compatible NFTs that are compatible with any other existing NFT collection in the entire ecosystem, instantly getting massive reach across all of the other projects that exist. You can compare it to drawing a hoodie that is suddenly compatible at the same time with Bored Apes, with Doodles, with Moonbirds, with any other high-value blue chip NFT project out there. You've drawn one thing that is compatible with all of them and therefore has demand on all of them. And that's, I think, really, really powerful here. So in terms of this being in production, that is our Canaria project. And the Canaria project was this campaign that we launched a year ago, where we put all of these Legos together, essentially. And so the way it worked is you have this bird, and I hope you can see my mouse. You have this bird where the bird contains these other NFTs. And some of those are non-transferable, or as Vitalik popularized it 6 months ago, soul-bound. But we've had these as non-transferable for a year. So only in this case, they can be non-transferable or soul-bound to wallets, but also to other NFTs. So this bird can equip and unequip these crystals, but it cannot send them out of itself. So they are bound to this character, to this avatar. And this opens a whole lot of new possibilities, reputational avatars, and basically RPG and leveling mechanics that I'll mention later that are automatically built into the NFT protocol level and allow rich RPG game construction with zero backend. So here you have a jetpack that's equipped, you have a trumpet that's equipped, you have a martini glass that's equipped, you have the background that's a sea that's equipped, and you can unequip all of them. You also have these gems that you can burn for a special ability or bonus, and you have some unequipped items as well, which, if equipped, would replace the existing ones. You can see here that since it's all Remark NFTs, you can also have tickets like Polkadot decoded in the NFT itself. So the NFT contains another NFT that is completely unrelated to the Canaria project. And it can even contain another bird. any NFT can contain any other NFT. So of course, the birds can contain birds. And of course, they can also have fungible tokens inside as well. So how it works in terms of technology is we have this illustration with several different parts. So you have left wing, right wing, head, chest, back, tail, and so on. And so then you apply some modifiers to these. And the modifiers were based on the on-chain emotes. So we had this ability to add emotes for a year. And what we did was we launched a collection of digital eggs that people were supposed to send these emotes to. And depending on what you emoted with the most, that is what would affect your bird when it hatches. So if you sent a lot of fire emoji to a bird and a lot of fire extinguisher emojis to a bird, that has a high chance of being hatched as a bird made of fire and holding a fire extinguisher NFT in its hand. And so this is exactly what happened here. We applied the modifiers to these parts, and so we ended up with these crazy combinations. They had, rainbow tails, they had Polkadot patterns, they had different, some were made of fire, some with water, a lot of different things. We also had slots. So like I mentioned with the Chunky's example, where we have fingers separated from the hand, we also had these slots that were in certain positions. So you have foreground, background, handheld left and right, front item, back item, and headwear and chest. And so we had these, and when you put these together, you end up with this crazy set of combinations. There's about 8,500 of these birds generated, and all of them came with custom, separately tradable, standalone NFTs that have been equipped on them and can be traded on the open market. And this is the biggest market right now in Botswana in general for NFTs. So one more example that I want to bring up, that I want to demonstrate here with regard to just composability, is the world's first probably composable PFP, or profile picture project. And the way this works is, this is the Mushroomtopia project, which is also live on our marketplace. The Mushroomtopia project has lets you compose your profile picture, and it lets you compose it by collecting parts on the marketplace. And each of those parts is actually a multi-resource NFT of its own. So first you get a digital mirror that is a song of the empty void of your soul, a video that is a representation, a video animation of your empty soul, and a composable where you can put these parts into to compose, to create your reflection. And you were supposed to collect these different parts. So this is one NFT with two different resources. The left one is a mushroom out of the Mushroomtopia kingdom, but the right one is a background that this mushroom represents. The left one is a mushroom from the Mushroomtopia kingdom. The right one is a head that this mushroom represents. The left one is a mushroom from the Mushroomtopia kingdom. The right one is a body. Headwear, handheld. And when you grab those, you then enter each individual item's view, and you send it into the other NFT. So you add it to the mirror NFT. And once you've added them in, you just click equip on them. And once you've equipped them, this is all on chain. You end up with this avatar. So this is my current avatar on Twitter and everywhere, and at the beginning of the slideshow. You end up with a composable avatar where every part is made up of separately tradable NFTs. And you can always unequip these, trade them on the secondary market, replace them with something else. And the authors of this collection have been releasing, in partnership with other authors as well, additional items, mirror styles, equipables, and everything else that you can use to tweak your PFPs and get these composition out there. This is another combination of the same thing. So it's pretty powerful, pretty cool stuff. Additionally, because of this cross-collection compatibility aspect that we have in RMRK in general, you can make any accessory, like I said, part of the global item economy. And the global item economy here means that you can, in theory, equip some of those Mushroomtopia things onto the Canaria birds, which means that the rarity of this hat mushroom is no longer the number of hats divided by the number of mushroom mirrors. It is the number of hats divided by the number of mushroom mirrors plus the number of Canaria plus the number of more mirrors that came out, and it can use this headwear. So the value of an NFT grows over time. It continually evolves. It can grow with the system. It can grow with the entire economy. It can grow as new collections join the ecosystem. Everything around these collections also grows with you. And so this is a very, very important, sorry about that, let me shut that down. This is a very important aspect to be aware of because we have finally left behind the static nature of NFTs. This technology is what lets Dotsama in general, like as an ecosystem, jump a few generations beyond anything that is available elsewhere with NFTs instead of playing catch up again. And I think that's a pretty big deal, but we've taken it further. So at this point, we'll talk about the metaverse, but first I'll pause briefly to check if there's any questions. And if you have any, please shoot them out now into the comments so we can address them before we move on. All right, looks like no questions. So I'm just gonna move on then. So next we have to talk about the metaverse. So there are many problems with today's metaverses, many problems. And I'm sorry to say that a lot of people fell for the trick. Okay, one question is, what are your plans for using soulbounds? Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, cool questions. All right, so what are your plans for using soulbounds? We will get to that, but we have taken these soulbound NFTs to a whole new level, far, far beyond what was proposed in the recent papers and discussions. You'll see when we get to the in-depth into Metaverse. Will Skybridge only use Canaria NFTs or NFTs from other collections? Skybridge will use NFTs from other collections. Chunkies and Canaria will be the first ones. But because we have the World Governance Council implemented, where you have the community vote on any change to the metaverse, you will be able to vote in any other collection. And we hope that there's going to be a lot of different collections, a lot of different collaborations between projects, and that it's going to be a whole, like a very big bleed of ecosystems together. So yeah, there will be other collections as well. Can you describe all the utilities the RMRK token will have in Skybridge? I could, but I don't want to in this talk because it's out of context. If you just read our wiki, which is at url.remrk.app/wiki, you can find out all the use cases, and we'll be populating that with more of those. But it's out of scope here, so I'm not gonna be shilling Skybridge. Would you consider ERC 1155 as an ideal NFT standard on ETH that would be compatible with your idea of NFT standard on Polkadot? No, ERC 1155 and ERC 721 have no future. We cannot work with those standards because they are just too primitive to support these functionalities. It's not arrogance. It's just literally functionally impossible to support what we do with those standards. It would need to be dramatically changed in some specific ways that are not backwards compatible. So it would not work. We do have some compatible work, which I'll address later, but in general, no, this cannot work with existing standards. Are there any plans to implement NFT-gated content or NFT-governed DAOs? NFT-gated content, sure. We already support, Collabland has already implemented RMRK token, so you can add that to your Discord bots or whatever to prevent access to certain rooms unless you have a certain NFT. We are working on more integrations of this type. And also, so NFT-gated content, there are several different ways to approach that, and most of them have have unacceptable trade-offs. You have you have the ability to have like unlockable content like an OpenSea, but that's always centralized. So that's just on their server, and if you have an NFT, then that server will serve you that content. This is not decentralized. So you lose the access to that content if you lose the NFT. The other way is if you have a certain piece of content that you only want NFT owners to see, then you need to take their public keys, so their addresses basically, and you need to encrypt that content with those public keys, and then you put that content online. Only the owners of the private keys of those wallets will be able to decrypt that content. But the problem there is that once it's decrypted, it's out in the open. Anybody can share it. And likewise, there's no way to revoke a key, revoke an encrypted file. So there are trade-offs to this unlockable content stuff that are borderline unsolvable, but there is a project that's been working on very interesting things in that regard that we're talking to, and yeah, I hope to have something interesting to share once we're live on the various EVM chains. And NFT governed DAOs, yes, we actually did that early on with the Canaria project, where we had to change the parameters of the entire Canaria, egg hatching process and everything. We let anybody who had a Canaria egg purchased vote on this, and so everybody who had that NFT could vote on these decisions. More stuff is coming. The OpenSquare team is working diligently to actually improve their current DAO voting UI that does off-chain voting like Snapshot, but to support NFTs as well. So there is different areas of research, areas of active research are in our ecosystem, and I expect that we'll see a lot of progress this year on that front. And that is it for questions. All right. So let's dive into the metaverse. And please, if you notice any other questions popping up, just throw them into the chat because I can't see them in the Q&A. All right. So the metaverses have many different problems. And problem number one is that they're not actually metaverses. The problem with metaverses today is that they are not actually metaverses. Every single metaverse out there that is promising that it is a metaverse right now, every single one, is a multiplayer game that replaced usernames and passwords with reading an NFT balance. Every one of them. All of those are just games that are running on somebody's centralized server and just use your NFT to log you in. You can log into 1,000 different instances of the same game with that same NFT and nothing will happen. You can also sell that NFT while you're playing and nothing will happen. They're just a different login method. And so this is not true to the metaverse experience. It is neither permanent nor decentralized nor lets you own your experience. So as the servers inevitably go down because games will vampire attack each other and steal each other's players, the servers will become too expensive to maintain. And as they go down, your experience will be lost with them because your NFTs are just static images in all the current metaverses. So in the best case scenario, what you end up with is a wallet full of NFT spam that is vaguely contextually connected, maybe just by name or something, and doesn't actually mean anything. All of this is solved by what we're building. The second problem is that they're hard to play. You can't really expect to onboard the next billion users into Web3 or into metaverses in general if you're expecting them to sit down behind a computer and use WASD to navigate and a mouse to look around. The Venn diagram of people who are able to do this and willing to do this, and who are willing to suffer through the user experience of Web3 is incredibly small. So what you need to do is you need to go hyper casual. You need to make it extremely user friendly, or you need to incentivize them to interact with Web3 and suffer through the UX, and therefore help you improve it by giving you feedback. So no wallets, no signing transactions, none of that stuff, because that's not going to bring people in. They need to be able to play ad hoc whenever they want for as short a session as they wish. And when they log out, they need to log out with a slightly more valuable NFT every time so that they own their experience. If that metaverse goes down, they need to own their experience. Everything they've done needs to stay with them. And problem number 3, as most Web3 development teams are quite horrible at game design and game planning. Not only do they not know how to make good, long-lasting game economies because they simply have no experience with it, most of them actually default to play-to-earn mechanics where they shower various tokens on people until the token trends to 0 and everything's just goes tits up. So you can't really just expect to raise a lot of money based on an Unreal Engine 5 demo and then just push out a AAA game. That's not going to happen. Most game development teams out there don't even tell you that they're building something until they're 3 years in and have discarded 20 different prototypes because they weren't fun enough. That's not how game development works. You can't just raise money and expect magic to happen. You have to know what you're doing, or you have to have the toolkit that helps you do it. And so this is where we get to Ciphermod. And Ciphermod is a new SDK that RMRK and Falla are building together. And it's kind of, you can think of it as Substrate for metaverses. So what this means is that we have an SDK that is basically an open source set of plugins that anybody can very intuitively use to build their own game-like experience in a decentralized way without sacrificing censorship resistance or downtime resistance, and plugs into existing metaverses or can deploy new ones, instances of new ones. The way it works is you would have something like like this journey. So you have a start phase, and then you pick the metaverse you want to deploy for. So this can be Falla World, this can be Sandbox, this can be Decentraland, this can be other side, it can be Skybreach. Then, or it can be a new instance of something else that you want to launch for, like Open Diablo 2, or an instance of Godot engine, or an instance of Phaser. Those are all game engines. So then you decide what you want to build for, and then you decide what the NFT infrastructure you want will be. Usually this is going to be RMRK because nothing else really makes sense. We have now developed the EVM contracts, which completely override anything done in ERC 721. So you would usually pick RMRK, especially because you can now deploy it on EVM chains and on Substrate chains. So you can pick where you want to deploy this RMRK infrastructure. And with RMRK, you actually, in most cases, don't even need a backend. And I'll get to that in a little bit. Then you optionally pick a DID provider that allows you to pick some kind of Sybil resistance or proof of humanity in your game or whatever bot resistance that you want. This is optional. Most games actually don't opt for this because they like the bots and they like to tell you that they have 100,000 daily active users or something when there's actually 3 users and all the others are bots. And then you will have a library of game templates, types, and economies that you can pick from. Of course, the options here will be limited to your initial selection. You can't really put a first-person shooter into Canaria Skybreach. Doesn't make sense. But in general, you can pick here anything from, on the left side of the extreme, nothing at all. So basically, you just end up with a version of Habbo Hotel Online and no economy, no nothing, to something as complicated as Factorio at the end. And this is a game library that we're going to populate with new and done economies and types and templates and so on. Finally, you pick which backend you want to deploy on, if you need one. You can pick centralized like every other metaverse right now, or you can use our build partners and co-founders in the Ciphermod project, Falla, who have their FAT contract and their cloud processing enabled on the parachain, and it's already being used to process Blender renders and a lot of other stuff to offload that work to their chain. And so if you deploy it here, you deploy everything, and you end up with a playable experience in a very, very short amount of time, very similar to how you can use Substrate to spin up a chain very, very quickly. Right now, if you actually... So the first steps are always easy, and then there's going to be a lot of customization on top of this. But we hope to address this with a lot of open plugins and partnerships with a lot of different brands and projects and teams and game developers who will build plugins for this ecosystem so that they expand this. We could call it an open gaming toolkit for everybody else to use. So there are projects right now that use the Ciphermod SDK and that plan to use it. We have plans to do extreme dog fooding, in that we will use Ciphermod heavily to develop Skybreach, and Falla World will use Ciphermod heavily to develop Falla World. So with Skybridge, we have the concept of world governance using NFTs. Like I said, DAOs, NFTs is DAOs. In this case, the entire world is a NFT that contains plots of land. Since the entire world is an NFT, it can be made into a DAO that can be governed by everybody else who owns a share token of that world. Additionally, anybody can issue any proposal to this world, with some collateral, of course, that makes any change in the world itself. This can be anything from changing a texture of a tile of grass to destroying an entire skyland and ruining locations you can visit, or kicking players out, or doing whatever you want. So this is fully under the control of the community. We hope to be completely hands-off in 2 or 3 years, so that we don't develop it at all. The community should take over, and we are totally willing to let it all go to hell. We know that there's a high chance that the community destroys it, but we also know that there's some chance that it becomes a utopia. So we'll see, and we'll participate in the experiment as well. What's really powerful in this is that this Ciphermod SDK, and by definition, because it uses Remark, offers you a built-in game avatar system that is beyond anything that's been out there so far. This is because for a change, you have true digital scarcity. No longer can you log into a bunch of different plots or lands with the same avatar. In order for an avatar to be in a plot of land, it literally has to be in a plot of land. So it's an NFT inside another NFT. And by definition, it can be nowhere else. There's no need for a backend processor to monitor if you're cheating by spawning elsewhere. It is in the NFT itself. You can't cheat that. It's on-chain. So this is the source to true digital scarcity, where you actually have the true metaverse experience. No more spamming your clones across the entire metaverse or multiple metaverses. You now are where you say you are, and you use what you say you use. You can't put that cap onto all of your avatars. You have to put it into your avatar, and that avatar has to equip it. Additionally, the use case for soulbound NFTs in our case here, because they're so much beyond just being bound to an address, you can have a non-transferable NFT that is an avatar brain. That avatar brain NFT can have slots for skills. And if you're level 2, you might have 2 skill slots. You can also collect non-transferable NFTs that are skills. So your avatar is collecting skills, and you might have more skills than you have slots. So you have to optimize which ones you want to equip for the post-rest period, just like in the old days of D&D. You might have a personality as an NFT that is non-transferable inside of your avatar that affects how other NPCs react to you. You might even have a pathfinding algorithm or something similar so that it affects your movement through the game and affects your upgrades and so on. Additionally, as you play, as you evolve, as you collect your experience, you own your experience, because your experience points can be added as child NFTs into your avatar, into your NFT. Every single point you collect can be put into your avatar, which you then use up when you want to level up the avatar. And you level up the avatar in a fully decentralized way by adding a new resource. That avatar has one resource that is level 1. As you level it up, a new resource is issued that just replaces the level 1 resource. And you now have a fully decentralized on-chain RPG mechanic for your game avatars that is applicable to any game anywhere that wants to launch this stuff. Even if it already exists, it can just plug this in right now. And of course, we have minting, crafting, all fully decentralized, all fully just like you'd expect it works. But I think the biggest kicker that a lot of AAA companies are missing, and that a lot of people are missing in terms of how much money is being left on the table, is the global item economy. If I have an axe and it's compatible with one game, and 5 years later a new game comes out, I can make it compatible with that other game as well. I can give it dynamic rarity. I can give it demand. Like I mentioned before, you can make that compatible with anything that comes out in the future. And this comes built in with Ciphermod, because your stuff is automatically compatible with everything else. Of course, you can choose not to make it compatible, but I think it's going to be, extremely weird for projects to choose that route, because if you choose to be compatible with something that exists, you get a pre-made batch of massive batch of assets that you can use in your game already and give functional benefits to without having to bother with building this, while also expanding the reach of your game and the player base. Because as the owners of those NFTs find out, whoa, our stuff is now compatible with something new that came out, let's check it out. This is unlimited potential for NFTs. So the DGen score is what we call the score for NFTs, where it varies depending on how much stuff it's compatible with. And not only is it cross-collection, it's cross-chain. It's cross-chain, cross-collection NFTs. These NFTs, because it's a standard that works everywhere, these NFTs can be transported from chain to chain and equipped on a wide variety of other collections and NFTs if they're made compatible with these NFTs. And so now you have entire cross-chain game item economies and accessories. And this is just the accessories that are visual that go into your avatars. You can think of something like if you have a music NFT that has different slots for stems, for music stems, and you make one stem of drums that you equip into this. That's cool. And so this drum has a rarity, and the royalty is distributed to everybody who contributed in the song and whatever. That's cool already. But you can make that drum track compatible with a piece of Metaverse land. And so now when you enter it with your avatar, you hear the background music of drums. And so now imagine how much the rarity of that drum track shot up because it is now made compatible with tens of thousands of plots of land and can be equipped in them. It's super powerful. So mixed media compatibility of cross-collection equipables is a super powerful concept that is hard to wrap your head around, but really powerful once you sit down and really think about it. The other project that uses Ciphermod is Falla World. And Falla World has this really interesting idea where you will actually be gamifying people's participation in Web3 and turning that into experience points for leveling up your character. So as you play the game, you don't level up your character by playing the game, you level it up by being a good Web3 citizen. They also use these soulbound NFTs, where you would actually, as you vote on referendums in Dotsama, as you stake, as you nominate, as you do a lot of different things, you get these experience points that are added to your avatar, and you then use those to level up. So by being a good Web3 citizen, you level up your character. You become better at your game, which is a perfect way, in my opinion, to onboard the next generation of users through games, gamified Web3 participation. You can also oracleize information that is centralized, like karma points on Reddit. If you make a viral thread, the holders of the token can actually vote in that post as an experience point for the person who posted it. So you can also earn by just being a good Web3 citizen in the Web2 domain. So these are the two projects that are using Ciphermod right now, and we will be doing extreme dog fooding with Ciphermod itself. So we're going to follow the parity ethos of like Substrate right now is the framework on which Kusama and Polkadot are based, but it came from Kusama and Polkadot. So first Kusama and Polkadot were built, then some solutions were abstracted into Substrate, then Substrate was used to rebuild what we had, then they built on top, and so, an iterative process. We will do the same. So this is exactly the same process. We build what we have with Ciphermod, then we build on top of it, then we turn it into Ciphermod, then we rebuild again, and so on. We're also talking to a lot of other companies that are building similar things to get as many problems into our early development phase as possible, so our solutions can be as abstracted as possible. And with the concept of global item economy, of mutual, cross-compatibility, it is very similar to Polkadot, where every new parachain that joins actually increases the economic security of everything that's already in the ecosystem, because every new collection you add adds value to every new collection that already exists. And this applies to every metaverse in the ecosystem that we launch with this. So we founded this, Marvin and myself, from RMRK and Falla. It's a joint venture between the two teams, and we'll be building this together. It's kind of like a product by our two teams, and that's just some basic information. Now, before we get into Wasm, and why I've talked about this so much without mentioning Wasm at all, I'll pause for some questions if there are any. All right, no questions so far. So let's address the Wasm. Why did I tell you all this? What does this have to do with Wasm? And where is this going? Well, right now, RMRK has a Kusama version, which uses the colored coins approach from Bitcoin's early days when they tried to do different things on Bitcoin. But we used it on Kusama because it didn't have smart contracts or parachains to deploy on. We also have a Solidity version now for EVM chains, and we have a Rust version now, so Substrate frame palettes, so that chains can integrate this into their runtime, and many of them already did. Well, not many, 2 of them already did, and 5 more are planning to. Okay. Then, oh, wait, some questions came in. Isn't there a huge asset data pipeline problem that needs solving before we reach the dream of any asset being compatible with every NFT-enabled game, just beyond showing images? Yes, Simon. So the content, the difference here is that traditionally, in order to add new content into a game that exists, you had to develop it with that engine in mind, and you had to have the team who are developing the client do this. And there was a huge chain of single points of failure where you had a big data asset pipeline problem because you are relying on a single team all the time. The way these metaverses work right now, when you have, let's say, an avatar in your as an NFT, and you can play with it in a game, the way it works right now is the team that's building the game pre-builds that asset into their game, and then on their server, on their database, says, if somebody who has this NFT in their wallet logs into this game, allow their camera instance to use this asset that we have pre-built for them. And so this is a terrible, terrible, terrible delay in just any kind of upgrade. However, with multi-resource NFTs, you can propose a new resource to an NFT that already contains everything you need for it. If I have a collection of accessories, and I see a new pixel-based game out there, but my accessories are 3D, I can just make those assets in 2D pixel format, add them to the NFTs, and they're instantly compatible with that which came out, without me needing to even, without the development team ever having to interact with me at all. So, of course, they have to whitelist the accessories to be usable in the game, but that's all they have to do. That's literally flip a switch. So there's no more waiting for a single team to build all of this for you and to expand the use case of an NFT. Instead, users and minters add these resources to the NFTs, and they expand their utility, whereas the end consumers, the games, just implement them, and they implement them by default. That's the big difference. So this goes much faster. It's much easier to develop for, and it's much more approachable to the general creator economy, because any creator can participate in this. Are the RMRK-3 smart contracts EVM or Wasm? Okay, we'll get to that. All right. So right now we have these 3 versions, 3 instances. We have the Kusama coin version, we have EVM Solidity, and we have Rust frame palettes. A lot of chains are integrating the Rust version, and it's going really well. We have everything being done from reputation tracking in prediction markets to registering intellectual property and ideas as NFTs that are nested with their licenses and other stuff. So we want more, though. We are megalomaniacs that want to conquer the entire NFT ecosystem with these standards, because we think the ecosystem deserves more, not just ours, but all ecosystems. And so we want more. So for that reason, because we are severely undermanned and just don't have the expertise, experience, or people, we have teamed up with the lovely folks at Super Colony. And the lovely folks at Super Colony are actually going to be the ones who will be writing the ink version of the RMRK standards. And this is going to result in RMRK, which means that you will be able to use RMRK in ink as well. So we will have 4 versions of this. Well, 5 if you count Gear as well. They're also building a version. But we have 4 versions in progress. Kusama, EVM, Rust, and then Wasm, which is going to use ink. So you will be able to use our advanced standards as part of ink, and we are super excited about this, because it is about time that we become, that we have, like hyper-advanced NFT structure as default in an ecosystem to finally move beyond just static images. And we couldn't be more excited about teaming up with this super talented team. So what does this make possible, though? Why do we have all of these different implementations? What is the point, what is the point behind spamming the ecosystem with different versions of the same code? Well, murder. The point is murder of ERC-721 and ERC-1155. They have no place in the present. They are very much the steam engine that needs to die. They have to be destroyed, just like, a lot of old things have to die for progress to happen. These standards are one of those. So the EVM contracts that we have right now are a drop-in replacement for ERC-721, and we hope that people will just use them as a drop-in replacement. They're fully backward compatible. But in that, we have the Trojan horse of other remark-based functionality that, when used by Super Colonies Inc., by the Rust palettes, by the EVM, by everything else, will unlock this unlimited potential that we talked about and really push forward the entire ecosystem. The magic here is that once this is all live, and once all implementations follow the spec, follow the same implementation as specified by our original standards, you will be able to take any NFT you have, nested or no, multi-resource or no, from any environment into any environment in Polkadot's trustless bridging ecosystem through XCM, through cross-chain messaging, and do incredible miracles with it. You can have your NFT avatar gain reputation on Zeitgeist as you participate in prediction markets, and that reputation will be represented as non-transferables in an avatar that you can also equip with accessories from the global economy compatible with every single implementation out there. And you will then be able to move that avatar into a smart contract chain that uses Ink based on SuperCollins's implementation to use it there in some sort of DeFi to maybe get an under-collateralized loan or other perks and benefits. The potential of cross-chain, cross-collection, cross-environment NFTs that go far beyond images is incredibly vast, and this is extremely important that we have the same implementation across all of these different ecosystems. And that is why we are working with so many teams to implement this exact same thing in many different languages so that all of these environments can understand each other, and so that all of these marketplaces can easily communicate with each other. We really are planning to replace the current standards with the Remark standards, and we need your help to do this by joining us and by minting with us. So I would invite you to go to docs.remark.app to read about all of these concepts that I've just outlined. There are detailed documentations there that are non-technical. I hope that they're very clear. You can join us on singular.app, our marketplace, to mint some of these multi-resource NFTs. It costs like $5 of KSM to mint a few hundred NFTs. And to read up on Ciphermod at ciphermod.com, which is in progress. We'll be updating that as it goes along. Always catch up with us on our Telegram or Twitter, and feel free to get in touch with me at any time. And that is it from me. Thank you very much for the attention. And I think I'm out of time, but I'll see if there's any other question.
I think no questions here. Thank you very much for this incredible speech, and thank you for a lot of the warm words about SuperColony. I appreciate it. And that you come here and highlight and talk about such important things at Wasm and Inc. Thank you so much for that. My pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.